Hey everyone, me Kevin here. Just saw the reports of Delta Flight 4819 from Minneapolis into Toronto flipping on its head. We need to talk about what happened here. First of all, it's a miracle that nobody has died. One person is in critical condition. This is also why it's very important to wear your seatbelt on a landing. But the plane flipped upside down.
We're in Toronto. We just landed. Our plane crashed. It's upside down. Fire department's on site. Upside down. Everybody, most people appear to be okay. We're all getting off. Some smoke going on.
In snowy runway conditions and in the wind. We're going to talk about the wind in just a moment. But the plane flipped upside down. The wing broke off. Now, you might not know this about aviation, and that's okay. But the wings are really important because that's where your fuel is. Got a lot of fuel on here. Now it's topped up. So when that snaps off, the fuel leaks out. And it usually doesn't take a lot of sparking, especially when you've got, this is actually carbon fiber, but when you have a metal like an aluminum fuselage that's skidding across the runway, it usually ignites the fuel that's spilling everywhere. This instead is kind of like the Titan submersible. Anyway, so talking about this Delta flight, what's remarkable is that based on the early information we have, we don't know what happened, but we know this was a CRJ 900. That has a maximum crosswind component reported of 27 knots. Some say you might be able to go up to a 35 knot maximum crosswind configuration or performance capability. So in other words, if you have winds pushing the plane from the side at more than 27 to 35 knots, let's go 27 to be safe, you run the risk of the plane losing its ability to stay upright. In fact, when you taxi planes, you will actually usually conduct wind corrections while you're on the taxiway because you don't want to flip. That's exactly what you don't want. So if you hop in here and I got a crosswind, I might actually move my joystick or yoke or whatever you have, and dive away from the wind, we say, because we're trying not to get the plane flipped. So in training, you actually taught about diving away from the wind because this does happen. This is a real issue. So what, at this point, obviously, is speculation as to what happened. But what could have happened? Like, how can a plane flip or just get lifted up to the point where it flips over? This is just speculation, but here are the facts, and I'll give you the speculation part. We know this was a snowy runway. So imagine snowy runway, you got storms coming in. There were rumors, maybe they're true, that flights into the same airport were canceled the day before because of the conditions of the wind. So it's snowy, which means you've got a slippery runway, which means if you touch down maybe a little late or you tap on those brakes, that part's speculation, tap on those brakes a little bit too hard, just like a car, you're going to lock up these brakes. Planes have brakes as well that have reverse thrusters. So even on a jet engine with a reverse thruster, you're just pushing the plane. The reverse thrusters are pushing the plane down onto the runway to get more braking traction. That's what the point of the reverse thrusters is. They don't actually thrust in reverse. They actually thrust up, which is probably not the best name for it. But anyway, so let's say you apply too much braking and you slipped. You start slipping, a risk that can happen. This is the speculation part. I want to be clear. We have to be respectful to people that are injured. And this, the airport's shut down now. This is a major incident. And it's coming at a crazy time in aviation. If you touch down and you start sliding, something else that could happen is you could start losing directional control of the plane. So if you're on that runway center line and you start slipping off to the side, you could try to correct with rudder, but if you're already locked up and you're slipping to where you're potentially going to go off this side of the runway, which it doesn't look like is what happened here, then you might try to correct back. But the problem with that is a quick correction back could lead to the unfortunate case where if you correct back, now you're actually leaning into more of a crosswind and you're getting more of a direct crosswind that could then potentially flip you. So think about that for a moment. Picture this. Plane's going straight. You land. Oh no, we're veering over. Okay, so we veered over to the left. And now we're gonna veer back to the right to try to correct to the center line. Now all of a sudden, because we have winds at 21 gusting, winds were at 25 gusting 35 over there. So you've got some good winds, okay? Winds 25 gusting 35 means a gust could put you over your maximum capability limit for this plane. We want to verify this. Again, we know some of the limitations that the plane has. 27 to 35 max, depending on sort of which model you have. Those details will come out and get configured. What we know is that the winds were at least 21, and they were gusting 5 to 10 more beyond that, potentially even more than that. And sometimes the weather information isn't minute to minute perfect on what the gusts are. And so now you're correcting, and at the same time you're correcting into another angle. So, you look at the plane at a different angle, let's say this is us correcting, right? And then we get hit with a crosswind at the same time that we're making our correction in those slippery runway conditions. We don't actually have to be that far veered off the center line to really get a and then a roll over, where basically you just get a crosswind picking this plane up over here and flipping you over. And that's where you get, obviously, the wing breaking off. See, in my opinion, if this plane, when we think of flip over, we think maybe it got picked up from the back, which happens with smaller planes. You'll see the plane get picked up in the back, flip straight over. In that case, I actually don't think you would have seen a wing broken off. So I personally, again, my speculation, do not think a wing would have broken off on a flip straight over, unless, of course, after that it tipped over, but then the wing would have been right next to it. This looks instead like it was going straight, you had some kind of slip or whatever, and then you got rolled over. That's my take, it's my speculation. Now, let's get back to the facts. You had 80 people on board, you can have a crew. It is a miracle, an absolute miracle, that this thing did not blow up. Now, they probably had minimums in terms of fuel, right? So you're not gonna have full fuel tanks like this puppy because you're at the end of your approach. So you'd have maybe about 50 minutes to an hour of fuel left. So you still got a good amount of fuel on there. I mean, you're still gonna have in excess of, call it an hour of fuel burn for a plane like that. It's gonna be 250 at least gallons. They have like 250 gallons on there, but I mean that beats having 2,000 gallons, right? For a 10-hour flight, you've got just enough for a 1-hour flight left. So that could have been a blessing here that this happened on landing. Now, something else to remember is that the vast majority of plane accidents occur on landing. People always say takeoff and land. No, takeoff and land combined add up to over 50% of accidents, but the landing specifically is makes up somewhere around 45%. I'll have to triple check that fact. Maybe I could throw that up on screen here. But it's right around 45%, maybe even up to 53%, somewhere in that range from landings. So landings are definitely the riskier part, as we've seen now with the Potomac. But then again, you have that takeoff potential disorientation crash in Philadelphia. So crazy time for aviation. But here's what's going on. Let's hope that person in critical condition and the other 7 people injured make a full recovery as soon as possible. Thoughts and prayers. Nobody died. This is a blessing that plane did not blow up. Thank you so much for watching, and wow.